21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
So I dropped out of medical school at the age of 18 after starting college at 13 years old, started a lawn care business. People thought I was crazy, but today I want to share exactly how you can get your business started, even for something boring like mowing grass, but build it from $0 to $1 million in revenue. My name is Mike Andes. I'm the founder of Augusta Lawn Care, and I actually started mowing grass when I was 11 years old, and I did that to basically pay my way through college. And so I knew I was going to go to college early. I had skipped a couple grades, and I ended up going to college actually when I was 13 years old. And so I started going to medical school, did all my pre-med undergraduate degree. At 18 years old, I went to Africa and was volunteering at orphanages and hospitals over there. And I loved every experience in terms of birthing, surgery. I worked a lot in the pediatric burn unit. I came back to the US and started shadowing a whole bunch of physicians, specifically the surgeons that I wanted to kind of emulate and go in my career, and realized that I didn't want to do the same 4 or 5 procedures for the rest of my career. Furthermore, I didn't want to go into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt for another 5-10 years of education in order to become a heart or a brain surgeon. And so that's when I decided, hey, I'm going to drop out of medical school. But realistically, the only thing I knew how to do at that time was mow grass. And so that's when we started Augusta Lawn Care. Prior to that, I'd been Andy's Lawn Care, just my last name with my brother. He also paid his way through college. He did his schooling to be an educator. But when I was 18, I dropped out, said, hey, I'm just going to go mow grass, started Augusta Lawn Care. Fast forward 11 years, and now we have 170 locations around the world. We have software to help home service businesses. And in the middle of that is when I had a near-death experience underneath a dump truck at one of our job sites that kind of rattled me to the fact that my business was not built on systems. It didn't have procedures. And if I wasn't working 12 to 14 hours a day, it would have gone bankrupt. And so that's what really started to turn around the business. And then ultimately we franchised 5 years ago and have grown since then. I still remember actually being on the hospital bed. I had gotten my hoodie caught in the PTO, or the power takeoff of the dump truck, as we were at a job site, and ended up in the hospital. Took a couple weeks to repair from that. But I still remember being on the hospital bed with my phone in hand, literally video calling my crew out on the job site, showing them what they should be doing next. And it was in that moment I realized I didn't have systems, I didn't have procedures, and without me, the business would fall apart. And so as I came out of that experience and started changing the business, and I'd already got my MBA at night when I first started Augusta Lawn Care. I did my master's in business at night. And while doing that, I understood systems, procedures, how to create standard operating procedures, et cetera, but I never really implemented it in the business. And so given the experience of basically almost dying and being out of the business for a couple weeks and almost losing the company, I realized, hey, I have to actually create a system for answering the phone, a script for how to do estimates, a script for how to do project management. And so that's really what ultimately led to me starting to create content and free content for everyone, and just simply just showing like how I turned my business around from not making any money and working crazy amounts of hours to being actually profitable. One of the biggest unlocks for me was really a system we called pay for performance, where essentially I pay my team members out in the field based upon a percentage of the labor revenue they bring to the business. So not hourly, not a commission, it's a percentage of the revenue they bring to the business is what they earn. So the harder they work, the more money they make. And that was a big unlock in terms of systems. And I started sharing that with people on YouTube and social media, but no one was actually implementing it. It was a good theory. They liked the idea. I wrote a book about it and like everyone liked it, but like very few people were actually implementing it. And I was very frustrated because I knew what it did for my business. In 1 year, it took it from me where I was working 89 hours a week in the field to working 1 to 2 hours a week in the field and going from zero in profit to 280,000 in annual profits. And so I knew what it could do for the business, but no one was actually taking me seriously because they just looked at me as like a content creator or consultant, someone outside. And that's when I decided I wanted to franchise and actually have skin in the game and a brand that I shared with these owners, so that when I would talk about pay for performance or estimate videos or scripts for selling and marketing messages that can be used, that they would actually know that I had skin in the game and that I was acting in their best interest and not just a consultant or a content creator. And so that's when we franchised the business 5 years ago. I don't think everyone should necessarily become a franchisee. It's the thing about being a franchisee, that the downside is really that you give up freedom. And that can seem, very daunting to someone that's an entrepreneur. You want to kind of create your own destiny and have freedom. And the thing that I like to think about is like when you put a pet or a dog inside of a kennel in order to be able to transport it across the ocean and go to Europe, for example. In order to do that, I have to put the dog in a kennel and constrain it. I have to constrain its freedom for a period of time in order to get it to the destination. And so the likelihood of getting that dog safely to the destination is far greater if I constrict its freedom for some period of time. And so I think about franchising is the same way. The likelihood of success, the likelihood of building the business that you want is greater if there are constraints around the systems you use, the pricing that you use, the branding that you use. But in the short term, it does feel constrictive. And so that's for that reason, franchises have a higher success rate, but it also does come at the cost of what you would otherwise feel as autonomy of an entrepreneur to kind of do what you want, test what you want, trial and error and figure things out. And there's pros and cons to that. But I think that the real benefit of a franchise is that there's systems in place that have been tried hundreds of times. You know what to do and what not to do. There's a community of people that are all using those same systems to motivate you and push you towards a common goal. The same way that they're in a race, in a marathon, there are people running around the main runners. They're setting the pace. They're making sure that they keep on pace to win the race. And that's ultimately what I think a franchise does. It creates the community, has the coaching, a common brand. Brand power brings down your customer acquisition cost. But ultimately, it is the constraints that allow the safe passage towards the common goal of success down the road. In terms of garnering more franchisees and adding to Augusta Nation, like the thing that really makes it different is that we don't take a royalty. We just take a flat monthly fee. And so regardless if you do $1 million in annual revenue or you do $100,000 in annual revenue, you're still just going to pay $1,200 per month. And furthermore, when it comes to our franchise, the thing that separates it is that you can leave at any time and not get a penalty. So you can literally leave, take your customers, if at any time you feel it's better that you grow your business better outside of Augusta Nation. So that keeps us accountable as a franchisor to constantly produce more value, ensure that you stay in business, because I'm not incentivized by your top line revenue. I'm incentivized by you staying in business for the long term and wanting to stay inside of Augusta Nation, because every day you can make that decision to leave if you seem fit. The ultimate goal of Augusta Nation is to change the level of professionalism in the landscape industry. And so everything that I've ever got in terms of my professional career and what I now can afford for my family, and kind of coming from the position that I did of not having money as a kid and growing up, like everything I've gotten is from the lawn care and landscape industry. And that's why I care so much about changing the level of professionalism, because the common landscaper shows up with cut off shirt, a broken down truck, oil leaking out the back. They're unprofessional. They don't speak English. They don't speak to their customer well. They don't have a brand. They don't have a website. They don't take credit cards. And so in order to change that perception, that's why we want 1,000 locations at Augusta. And the reason I want to do that is to change the level of professionalism in the industry. And the reason I want to do that is because it's given me everything I could have ever imagined and more. And for that reason, I want to give back to the community. We have the businesses and the software and the franchise, et cetera. They pay the bills. But ultimately, my goal, regardless of whether or not someone joins the franchise or uses any of my products, is that they can grow their business. They can make more money, whether they are in lawn care and landscaping or any blue collar home service business. And so for that reason, we make all of our content for free, including all of the courses. And it really gives everyone the step-by-step of everything that we do, even inside of the franchise. It's all there for free. The books are free. The courses online are free. And it just, the goal is to be able to raise the tide, and by raising the tide we lift all the boats. And so regardless if you're in Augusta or you use Copilot as our software, like regardless, it is that information hopefully improves the level of professionalism in the industry. really over the next 5 years, what we're going to see in the home service industry and landscaping specifically is what we see right now in technology around AI, technology, software, et cetera, is going to be the distinguishing factor of whether or not a company is successful. In the past 10 years, it's been, do you have a online website, an online presence? That's been the distinguishing factor between a professional landscaper and then, Joe Blow down the street, a company that makes good profit margins and has systems and procedures versus someone that just does this on the weekend. And so I believe in the next 5 to 10 years, the distinguishing factor between the noob and the professional is going to be, do they have software that makes decisions for them in the business? Do they have software that can do routing and scheduling? Software that can answer the phone 24/7 using AI? Those will be the distinguishing factors, in my opinion, between the professional that makes the profit and has systems and procedures to run the business without them there, versus the person that's tied to their business, has low profit margins, and forever will be working a 14-hour day because they have no procedures in the company. My goal is that people would be able to listen to the content, listen to the systems and procedures, and avoid the same mistakes that I made. The mistakes that I made caused 4 or 5 years of unprofitability. It caused me to almost lose my life underneath the dump truck because I didn't have systems to run the company. And I would hope that someone would be able to listen to the courses, listen to the videos, listen to the books, and be able to avoid that same pain. If they can help one person, that'd be fantastic. And so in terms of being able to do that, whether it be YouTube, you can look up Mike Andes, but also landscapebusinesscourse.com. It's a completely free course. It'll walk you from $0 to $1 million in annual revenue. And if you look in the videos on that course, you actually see a lot of lacerations in my neck. And that's actually from the dump truck accident that happened just a few weeks prior. And it was right after that I started making the course of turning the business around and documenting which systems completely changed the company.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.